Hello and welcome. Before we actually dive into today's interesting presentation, I just like to give my brief introduction. My name is Atul Raizada. I create these deep dive technical videos just as a hobby and one of my effort to give back to the community. So, and many of you might have already been watching my deep dive technical videos in past, and if not, I encourage you and welcome you to visit my YouTube channel. Uh, but today's topic is very interesting and special because today I would like to share with you my personal experience with disruptive technologies and its impact on IT professionals. All of us are included in that. And as I would be talking about my own personal experience, that doesn't mean that it's kind of a lecture or a motivational speech. I just want to see that the way I have dealt with it, would it resonate with you or not, right? So at times when you speak and you start talking about your own personal experiences, it may sound like a little bit of bragging, but please excuse me, that's not the intent, that's not what I want to do. I just want to share with you and see that if it can help you in your day-to-day activities, right? That's the overarching goal of this presentation today. So you would have already seen that this disruptive technology is a tsunami, and organizations are adopting this disruptive technology to be their edge, in a kind of a competitive edge or marketing edge in the market. And as a result, it has brought a seismic shift in both in direction and acceleration. So enterprises wants to do it, move it from the traditional way of doing business and get into this digitalization or disruptive technologies and want to do it fast, right? All of that has a significant impact on all of us being IT professionals. And this, if you look into the market requirement in terms of business technology, security, and this digitalization, this is a never-ending saga. It just, it's so dynamic, it changes hourly. And when we look into that kind of a tsunami of activities, tsunami of requirements, then um, we as an IT professional finds ourselves in a real stressful situation, because whether we are talking about finding new IT jobs or keeping our current IT job or looking into our career growth, it is a daunting challenge. I hope you agree with me, right? Because we have seen in last 3 4 years, and I'm going to try to prove my point in next few slides, it has become a question of survival, or according to the Darwin's theory, survival for the fittest, right? And that's what we are dealing with. So the question is that how do we deal with this? And I think it's a legit question. I mean, all of us are trying to do the best that we could, right? We all are working, you know, very hard to keep the lights on in our organization and making sure that what we do it right. And you could be very loyal to the organization. You could have been working for the organization for very long time, but this challenge doesn't really make an impact. It doesn't really matter how long you have been working, how loyal you are to the company, because the landscape is changing, right? And as a result of that, it is of paramount importance that we talk about it, we discuss about it, and we see that how can we deal with this situation. And the answer is very simple. In my viewpoint, and I have spoken about it in past in different forums, different cloud workshops, boot camps, and whatnot, organized by different vendors. And the answer is simple, but it is hard to achieve, right? Let's try to be relevant in the industry. And it reminds me of an interesting quote by Alvin Toffler, right? And what he says is, I think it's profound. It says the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. This is extremely important for all of us in IT professions, because we have to understand how to learn, how to unlearn, and how to relearn. This is the exact challenge that we are dealing with, right? And I think this quote goes perfectly in alignment of our challenge. And I would talk about these four P's down the road, but if you see that this also revolves around the passion that you have, the passion about your technology, passion about what you do, passion about how you perform. And if you take passion in the center, then if you have the three other virtues, which is patience, perseverance, and persuasion, then it becomes a winning combination. It becomes a key to success in my viewpoint, right? And let's try to look into and see that what does the relevant being means is, right? Or to be precise, what do we really mean by being relevant, right? And if you look into that, I try to break down into multiple bullet points here, talking about relevance is a moving target. Because if you see that our target is changing, and I'm going to show you in next slide that what does that really mean. What was true in 2013 or 2014 or 2017 from technology perspective has significantly changed. There is a drastic shift in the technology compared to what you have been doing in 2013 and what you are trying to do in 2019 and what you will be doing in 2020. So this target is always a moving target, and I'll talk about it, and I'll show you exactly what I mean is in the next few slides. And then often, right, we do not understand, and we stay in a state of euphoria. I'm sorry to say that hey, everything is good around us, right? I'm a particular DBA and I've been working in this particular database space. I can continue doing what I do for the rest of my life, and I can pull along it. Unfortunately, that is not true, because as I said earlier, that market is changing, right? So if you have been an Oracle DBA or SQL DBA for past several years and you are just working on that and you do not want to look into new, Cosmo DB or MongoDB or something else, then there is a problem. There is a challenge. Same way, we have to be aware around what's happening in the industry. So awareness is the key, because if you're not aware that how the market is moving, where we are heading to, what the future technology is, what the market space looks like, then we will be left behind and you cannot stay relevant. At the same time, often when we come across this challenge and we try to be relevant, we are so scared. Hey, what if I try that? I have never done that. I have never gone into Azure. I have never worked into Amazon Works Web and the AWS space. I have never worked with functions or APIs, and we just take a step back and say, hey, I can do it. So the first and the foremost here, in order to be relevant, then just remove your fear and don't be afraid of failures, and we'll talk about it in the next few slides. And believe me and trust me that you are smart, because if you would not have been smart, then perhaps you may not be watching this video. You may not have been in this industry, an IT professional, which is, that we are very different than many of other technology industries. And I'm not trying to undermine any importance of any other industry or any other side of the business, but obviously we are smart people here. And then, right, it is very important that who do you challenge and who do you compete. So my view of looking at is that you always challenge yourself and you always compete with yourself, so that if you can compete with yourself and you can say, hey, I'm better than what I was a day before, a week before, a month before, then obviously you are on the right path, right? And that's what is extremely important, and we'll talk and indulge into in greater details in our next few slides. And then this is very important, right? You should be very proud and you should enjoy your accomplishment, because again, when we go into that slide, you will see that that is the biggest motivation factor for you to stay relevant in the industry that you are working, right? Extremely important. So let's just dive into. And I said that relevance is a moving target in my introduction here, right? And you just look at it. This is the Gartner's top 10 strategic technology trend predictions, and I took from 2013, 2014, 2017, and 2019, right? I'm not going to read all that and bore you with that. It's up to you to read it whenever you want it. But the thing that is distinctly clear here in this slide, that this is a you know seismic shift, which I mentioned in the very early part of my introduction, seismic shift in the technology, right? Now, if you look back in your own space, and whatever uh, skill sets that you had, whatever area you have been working, it has dramatically changed, right? So I know when I came to this industry back in 1998, I knew, and I started my career with Windows NT 4.0, right? Today, you see where we are, right? We don't even talk about it, and that goes back to the quote of learn, unlearn, and relearn, right? And it's extremely important. We cannot go away from this thought process that we have to continuously keep learning in order to be relevant in the industry. Our target is always going to change. What is in 2019 may not be in 2020. So if we do not have the mindset of learning, unlearning, and relearning, then perhaps we would have challenges, right? And that's exactly what I'm trying to mention. And I do it for my living. I do it on a day-to-day basis. As I said in earlier, that I'm myself an example. I started with NT. I did so many things. I don't want to even go there. It looks like bragging. I try to stay away from it, but uh, you know, you see the proof. I create a lot of these technical videos, and that shows that I came from NT and where I am talking about today. So again, not talking about me too much, and just trying to explain you that where we are heading. And then be realistic, right? This is extremely important. And many times we just procrastinate and say, you know what, I'm fine, man. I know this skill set. I've been working for this company for last 20 years. I've been helping them. I did an Oracle DBA. I'm a SQL DBA. I'm system admin. I'm an Active Directory guy. I'm a good DevOps guy. I don't need to be worried about it, right? That's not true. That's what we call as a echo chambering, right? Because you think, and that's a euphoric state according to me, because you think, oh, everything is great. Perhaps that's not the case, because the market is changing. Market is changing dramatically in last 4 or 5 years, and it is continuously keep changing. So if we just, you know, keep ourselves boxed into that scenario and say everything is good around me, perhaps that is not the right approach. That's a problem in itself. And that's why I say be realistic. And that goes to the next point, that is awareness, right? So be realistic means that you need to be aware of what's happening in the industry, what's going on, whether it is in your on-prem environment or a cloud environment. I'm not going to read all that. It's just to make sure that we have some good talking point, right? And whatever field you are working, you need to be aware of the latest and greatest developments. And interestingly enough, right, this is what I think is extremely important. Many of the areas that you are working into, your vendors, whether it is Microsoft or Amazon or Oracle or Citrix or whatever the case may be, right, they are more interested than you to expand their business. This is very important, and I think this is the crust of the story that I want to mention. If you start subscribing to them, if you start looking into their blogs, right, you start getting those updates automatically. So instead of you going after them, it is very likely if you start looking into the right people, right websites, right blogs, the vendor would automatically come and start delivering you what you're looking for, right? So it's just taking an effort, a step ahead, and say, hey, if I work in Citrix space, and I work in Active Directory space, or I work in DevOps space, can I just go and sign up from Microsoft? Hey, what's happening on, let's say if we're talking about Microsoft, what's happening in Azure Active Directory? What's happening in, security space, identity management, blah, 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 blah. It just keeps going on and on and on. But what I'm trying to say here is not that difficult. It's not difficult because it is at your fingertips. You have to take a small initiative and the information start pouring back to you as long as you're interested in that. Some garbage, some good stuff, of course, that you have to filter it out, but that's the key, right? Now, see, another point that I mentioned is don't be afraid of failures, right? This is extremely important. I took this quote from the past Indian president APJ Abdul Kalam, who said it beautifully. I said nothing could explain it better than what he did it. He is a master. He was a great scientist. I believe it. Look at it. He has got many of interesting saying and motivational thoughts that you might find it. And he said, if you fail, never give up, because fail means first attempt in learning. Beautiful, right? Because if you don't fail, you're never going to learn. So why are we worried about failures, right? So you give a shot, you try it, and then end is not the end. In fact, end means effort never dies. Wow. And again, if you get no as an answer, remember no means next opportunity. I think this is very interesting, right? And again, going into the realistic side of it, right? What we generally do and say, hey, we are interested in XYZ technology, we'll go and start looking into the blogs, looking into the articles, buying books, and trying to learn. I'm not saying we don't do that. But the reality is, and that's my personal experience, right? You may try to do that, but ultimately, until and unless you get into the mud, you get your hands dirty, you do not get a good handle on it, right? And the beautiful part of this is, which is what is exciting in my viewpoint, is that most of these services you could do and you could learn for free. That means you can get a free subscription, free trials most of the time. I mean, I would not say 100% scenario, but in majority of scenarios, whatever you are trying to do or learn is possible through free subscription. So instead of wasting your time and energy in running and reading 20 different blogs and 20 different books and going all the way and then getting confused, it's better to jump into the mud and try it yourself. What is maximum is going to happen? You're going to fail, okay, but you would learn from that failure in a realistic word, and you would be able to do that. This is what I do it. I mean, again, not trying to brag about it. All these technologies that I deal with, and there are plenty of them, I never go to a class. I just say I just go into my lab, jump in and try it, fail it multiple times, keep doing it until I get success, and then I'm in front of you, right? And that is the whole story. So instead of just reading and trying to learn from blogs, my suggestion to all of you is, from my perspective, jump in the mud, try do it, and most of the time you could do it for free. And you would be surprised many times the amount of money that you would pay to a classroom training or a lecture or a book would be more than what you could do free in your lab by just signing for the free subscription, talking to the customer, talking to the vendor, getting their support. If you run into, if you burn yourself, it's easy. Instead of just going to that and then say, hey, I can't even do it, right? But the feeling of accomplishment starts from the day one that you get into the mud and you start trying to do it. You might not do it in the first time. Believe me, nobody is perfect, right? Nobody is perfect. You may fail, but you try. And guess what? When you do that, you explore many other challenges that you would have never explored just by reading a book or by going to a classroom training. I can honestly 100% assure you that, right? And I said that you are smarter than you think. It is just very important. Many times we undermine ourselves. And many times, I'm sorry to say that, we do the self pity. Self pity is the easiest excuse for explaining your failures, right? Oh, I couldn't do it because I'm so busy. I work for customer. I got my family. I need to do this. I need to do that. We all do that. We all have that, right? But you still find time to do what you like, right? So here is my question. This is this particular activity, learning and doing things and being relevant, is related to your career. Everything runs around it. So, and you are smart in my viewpoint because you're not doing a regular 8 to 5 job where you need to do same doing keep monotonous job. And I'm not trying to undermine any other profession, but you're not working like an accountant or a registrar or a cashier, right? Or a legal advisor or a legal clerk sitting on every day on the desk and doing the same thing over and over again. You are in a profession which is exciting, which is challenging, which is demanding, and that is the beauty of what we do as IT professional, right? We don't do the same thing over and over again. We have to deal with challenges, and that is what I think, that you are very smart and believe in that. That would bring the confidence in you to do things the way you want to do, right? And Who do you compete with? I always compete with myself. I don't compete with nobody. Trust me. And I'm not just making it up. Every day I try to see, hey, what can I do better? Where do I learn more, right? And that particular inquisitive nature within me keeps me alive, keeps me active, keeps me interested in what I do and how I do things, right? And somebody said it very correctly. If you don't challenge yourself, you will never realize what you can become. It is a reality, my friend. Don't just undermine the value of this statement. It's extremely powerful. I mean, I do tons of technologies, and you would not believe, again, not trying to brag about it, until about 42 years of my age, I had never even seen a computer. I never touched it. I had no interface to that IT world at all. And today I'm sitting in front of you. Again, I just celebrated 60th birthday this January, and I still want to do and learn more. And I compete with myself every day. I want to learn more. I am hungry. I'm starving to see what I can absorb and I could be more relevant in the industry. Trust me. I still want to write exam every second month to keep myself updated, right? So you will see that I do a lot of certifications, tons of them. I don't want to mention them. The reason is very simple. I'm very passionate about what I do. I don't do this because somebody asked me to do. I do because I like it. I do because I love it, right? And that passion, that persuasion, that four P's that I mentioned earlier in my slide becomes very important and natural to me, right? And again, this is the last but most important part, that you should start enjoying your accomplishment. You should start feeling motivated by your own accomplishment, right? Because if you do that, it doesn't really matter how big or large that accomplishment is. It keeps you self-driven. It keeps you self-motivated. It brings the required passion, confidence, and you tend to be more successful. I am a firm believer, my friends, here that um, if you even try to do that, if you like what I just said, and if you think that's a reality, that's a real challenge to all IT professionals, I think I have done my job. I think the message that I want to convey here is it is very much within your reach. The only thing is that you have to have a desire to do that. You have to enjoy what you do. You have to do it as a passion. You have to learn and be relevant in the industry to deal with these challenges. Things would become easier. I guarantee you that. I do it on a daily basis for myself. I hope you like it. I hope you enjoy it. I hope it may help you in if you're running into any of those challenges. And uh, I want to thank you. Thank you again for listening to me. I I hope it was not a speech. I hope it was not a lecture. I hope I shared with you what I do, and hope it helps. Thank you again. Have a great day. Bye bye.